breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends in Adam Rosenberg. He does a tremendous job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Take a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. We're going to be diving in on how he's playing the player prop market right now. He's taking a look at the team prop market actually a little bit more specifically. We're going to be looking at some of these teams that might be buyers and sellers at the deadline. How he's all deciphering that, and then we'll dive in on a few teams that he's just feeling a little bit bullish/bearish on in general. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be offered those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. Everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds anywhere and at any time, and that 100% of gambling transactions are going to be approved. And then when you head on over to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Milwaukee Brewers just keep on winning, 40-16 in their last 56 games. They absolutely house the Seattle Mariners this by kind of 10-2, as for Seattle, they have actually been your best over team in all of baseball. Now they are with 56 overs, 41 unders, and 5 pushes, as the Brewers did the heavy lifting here. Despite the fact that they had no home runs, 8 of 18 with men in scoring position. Quinn Pricer was solid, 7 innings, allows 2 runs, and Tobias Myers, who was a starter last year, 2 scoreless innings. Meanwhile, for Seattle, Luis Castillo, 6 runs allowed, 3 of which were earned, as J.P. Crawford had an error out there in the field. Trent Thornton was awful, 4 runs allowed in 2 innings, and then Casey Lugumina provides a scoreless inning along with Brandon Garcia. So they were able to get the job done there. Also being able to get the job done, the Houston Astros, who very silently are up to 60 wins. 4-3 the final, and for the Diamondbacks, they get swept in the series, and they're now 3 games below 500 and looking like sellers, despite the fact that Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, a leadoff home run off of Brandon Walter, 20th home run season. That'd be all that Walter gave up in 7 innings. Bennett Sosa from there does give up 2 runs in an inning, but Josh Hader a scoreless inning, and the Astros win despite going 3 of 15 with men in scoring position, as Brandon Pfaadt battled his way through 5 1/3 innings, allowing 2 runs. Anthony Saalfrank a scoreless inning. Trevor Richards gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings, and Kevin Ginkel, he does give up a run in an inning of his own. The Blue Jays get the job done against the New York Yankees by a count of 8-4, and the Blue Jays, very good over team thus far. 55 overs, 44 unders, and 4 pushes. And if you look specifically at what they've been able to do at home this season, that's out 33 overs, 20 unders, and 2 pushes. They are the best home over team in all of baseball. And Max Fried starting to regress a little bit. 3+ runs allowed, and now 5 out of his last 6 starts, 6 runs, 4 of which weren't allowed in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Scott Efforts gives up 2 runs in his inning work, and he did allow a bomb to Bo Bichette, 13th home run of the campaign. Jonathan Loaizaga, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. JT Brubaker, he goes for a scoreless inning, and Aaron Judge does go deep off of Chris Bassett, 37th home run season. Bassett also gives one up to Anthony Volpe, 13th home run season. Yeson Dominguez, his 9th home run season for Bassett. Phil, 7 1/3 innings, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, including those 3 bombs. Justin Brule from there, a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Yariel Rodriguez, a scoreless inning for the Cleveland Guardians. They find a way to persevere, 3-2 over the Baltimore Orioles, as Jackson Holliday goes deep off of Slade Cicone, his 14th home run season. Cicone gives up 2 runs in 6 innings. Nick Enright, Hunter Gaddis, Emmanuel Clase, all in scoreless innings. And for Zach Eflin, pretty Eflin good coming off the injured list. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. Andrew Kittredge, Junior Cano, both lend a scoreless inning. And then Colin Selby, he gives up a run in his inning of work, so they are unable to get it done. The Dodgers have been one of your better over teams in all of baseball, but got some good pitching in this one as they keep it under and they get the 4-3 win. As for Chris Paddock, very good start actually. He gives up 1 run in 6 innings. That was a solo shot to Mr. Shohei Ohtani to lead off the game. 37th home run of the season. Tyler the Glass now 12 punch-outs. He gives up a solo home run in his 7 innings of work. Royce Lewis, his 5th home run of the campaign. From there, you had Kirby Yates give up 2 runs without getting it out of the bullpen, walk 3 guys, but Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda clean up the mess from there with scoreless innings apiece. Release. And for Minnesota, did have Danny Kalum give up a run in a third of an inning. You had Louis Varland from there give you a pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Brock and Roll Stewart, a scoreless inning. Griffin Jacks entered into the ninth inning with a lead and gives up a pair of runs as Freddie Freeman, walk-off single, then ended this one. You had the Colorado Rockies pitch a shutout at home against the St. Louis Cardinals, 6-0 the final for Cardinals, now one game above 500 as Andre 3000 Palante nearly gave up 3,000 runs, giving up 5 runs in 5 innings. From there, you had John King along with Andre Granillo come in and combine for 3 scoreless innings as he actually had King give up 1 run, so they allowed 1 run in 3 innings, still not bad. They had Ezekiel Tovar get a home run off of King for his 5th home run season, and Tanner Gordon, 6 scoreless innings, Jimmy Ayer get a pair of scoreless innings, and Tyler Kinley a scoreless inning of his own. As for the Cardinals, they go 0-5 with men in scoring position. Not so great there. This was solid for the Royals, though. They get an 8-4 win over the Chicago Cubs. It was a little bit of a windy day out there at Wrigley, and for Seth Lugo, he did his part. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Stephen Cruz allows a solo home run in an inning of work. John Schreiber, a solo home run in an inning of work as Peter Armstrong, 27th home run of the season. Then Matt Shaw, his 5th home run of the season, but for the Cubs, Colin Ray said hip hip boo to giving up 3 home runs, 6 runs, 5 of which were earned in his 5 innings of work as he had Salvador Perez take him deep for his 18th home run of the season. Then a pair of bombs from Vinny Pasquantino, 16th and 17th home runs of the season. Then it was Tyler Tolbert getting his first home run of the season as he was able to crank that one off the bullpen. Drew Pomerantz gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Ryan Presley a scoreless inning, and he did have 2 scoreless innings out of Brooks Kriske. And for the Kansas City Royals, he also had a scoreless inning from Lucas Erceg. You had lots of scoreless innings from the Pittsburgh Pirates, 6-1. They're able to take down the Detroit Tigers. As for the MLB debut of one Mr. Melton, Troy Melton, well, he melted under the pressure, giving up 6 runs in 5 innings, including a pair of home runs. Andrew McCutchen, his 9th home run season. Spencer Horwitz, his 3rd, as Bailey Falter does not live up to his name. 1 run allowed in 7 innings, and Carmen Blodzinski, 2 scoreless innings. You had Chase Lee provide a pair of scoreless innings, and Carlos Hernandez, scoreless inning of his own for the Tigers. And for Spencer Strider, he did not find his stride in the 5th inning as the Atlanta Braves get land base at 9-3 the final. 0-0 going into the 5th inning, and then the Giants put up 3 spots in the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings. Matt Chapman, his 14th home run of the season off of Strider, and then Strider gives one up to Rafael Devers, 18th home run season. Then Devers, who had 2 home runs in his first 29 games with the Giants, gets another one off of Dylan Dodd, the Doddfather, his 19th home run season. Dodd gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Dane Dunning, not so stunning, 2/3 of an inning, gives up 3 runs. Spencer Strider gives up 3 runs in 5 innings. From there, Aaron Bummer, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Dylan Lee, Rocio Iglesias, they both turn a scoreless inning, and Justin Verlander finally gets his first win of the season. Walked 5, gave up 1 hit in 5 scoreless innings. And John Egelet give up 3 runs in his inning work, but Ryan Walker, Joey Lucchesi, and Tyler Rogers, they're all able to turn scoreless innings. The Cincinnati Reds turned a whole bunch of scoreless innings, 5-0. They get the job done against the Washington Nationals. Nick Lodolo, a complete game, 4 hits, no runs allowed. And for Washington, Mike Soroka, solid start, 1 run allowed in 5 2/3 innings. And then the bullpen from there was the, Nationals bullpen. Jackson Rutledge, pair of outs out of the bullpen, and he gave up 2 runs. He had 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up by Andre Lara. That was over the course of his inning of work. You had Connor Pilkington give you a scoreless inning. Cole Henry, 2/3 of an inning scoreless, but the Nationals bullpen is now a Nationals disaster. For the Miami Marlins, they've been eating up recently. 3-2, they take down the Slam Diego Padres as Dylan Cease continues to struggle. 3 runs, 2 of which were given up in his 5 innings, including a home run to Jesus Sanchez, 9th home run season. From there, Kyle Hart, a pair of scoreless innings, and David Morgan, a inning out of the bullpen scoreless as well. But for Miami, Sandy Alcantara finally found it. 1 unearned run given up in 7 innings. You had from there, Calvin Fauché give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Josh Simpson did allow a run in a 3rd of an inning, but Miami finds a way to persevere and get the job done, and also being able to get the job done, the New York Metropolitans, 6-3, they're able to take down the LA Angels. As for the Angels, Brock and Roll Burke got the start in this one for what was a bulk appearance for Jake Eater. Eater gives up 5 runs in 6 innings, so he did not Eater done. Sam Bachman also had a scoreless inning, as well as for the Mets, pair of bombs, Brendan Nimmo off of Brock and Roll Burke, 19th home run season, and Pete Alonso, 22nd home run season for Los Angeles. Mike Trout does go deep off of Sean Manaea, his 18th home run season. Manaea gives up that home run in 5 innings of work. Jose Buto, fresh off the injured list, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning, but Oscar Brazoban, Brooks Raley both give you a scoreless inning, and Edwin Diaz was able to go for 1 1/3 inning scoreless as well. You did see out there in Texas, the Rangers find a way to persevere, get the job done against the A's. As for Texas, they just continue to get really good starts out of Patrick Corbin. I'm not sure how, but gives up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. From there, a little bit of a surprise here. 55 Shades of John Gray comes out of the bullpen for 2 scoreless innings. Obie Milner from there is able to hold down the fort, and big in this one, Corey Seager, 15th home run season. That comes off of J.P. Sears. Sears gives up just a 1 run in 5 innings. From there, you had Jack Perkins come in for 2+ innings. He allowed a run as well, but Texas, they hold it under as they have been really one of your best under teams in all of baseball for Texas. 40 over 62 unders and a push, so that has been a sight to behold, and that 2-1 win was another nice easy under for the Rangers. And then the Red Sox in 11 innings, they find a way to persevere 9-8 against the Philadelphia Phillies as Jesus Luzardo just continues to be lost. 5 innings pitched, he gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned. From there, Jordan Romano, along with Orion Kirkering, Matt Strahm, all end a scoreless setting. Daniel Robert and Tanner Banks combined for a scoreless setting, and then Max Laser, unearned run given up in the 10th inning, and then you had Seth Johnson give up a home run in the 11th, as taking him deep was Carlos Narvaez, 11th home run in the campaign, and then Rami Gonzalez earlier in the game off of Luzardo, a grand slam, his 6th home run season. Lucas Giolito also not sharp in this one. 5 runs allowed in 4 innings, including 4 home runs. Bryce Harper, his 14th home run season. Nick Castellanos, his 13th. You had JT Realmuto go deep off of Aroldis Chapman, who he hasn't let up too much. He gave up a run in 1 1/3 innings. He got a 6th home run in the campaign, and then Kyle Schwarber off of Giolito, 34th home run season, and Bryson Stott, 7th home run season off of Giolito as well. But you had Jordan Nix give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Garrett Whitlock, Greg Weisert, they both give you a scoreless inning, and you had Justin Wilson supply 2 scoreless innings. Ori Alcala in the 11th inning allows an unearned run, and Weisert actually gave up an unearned run in the 10th inning, but no earned runs. And then Brennan Bernardino gets the last out of the game for the Boston Red Sox to be able to get the job done. And also being able to get the job done, the Chicago White Sox, 11-9. They take down the Tampa Bay Rays as Yandy Diaz get his 17th home run season off of Jonathan Cannon in the 1st inning, and Junior Caminero also his 26th home run in the campaign off of Cannon. For Cannon, gives up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned in 4 1/3 innings. Brandon Iser, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Grant Taylor, Jordan Leisure, and Dan Altavia lend a scoreless inning. Stephen Wilson does give up a pair of runs in and out of the bullpen, and Tyler Gilbert, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And then Taj Junko and Moulton Bradley, well, he was playing games and not the right kind. 4 runs, all of which were earned, give it up while getting 5 outs in his start. And then Kevin Kelly really had a rough go of it, to say the least. 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, given up in a 1/3 of an inning. You'd have Joe Boyle rules give up a solo home run in his 3 innings of work as going deep for the Chicago White Sox off of him. It was Mr. Teal getting his first home run of the campaign, the backup catcher in Kyle Teal, and then you would also have going deep off of Taj Junko and Milton Bradley, home run number 2 of the season and home run number 2 of the series for Colson Montgomery. So they found a way to be able to go deep. Mason Englert, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Brian Baker was able to give you a scoreless inning, and Ian Seymour, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And if you're looking at what we're all getting in Major League Baseball right now, ever since the All-Star break, we have been seeing some overwhelming results. We've had 42 overs for 41 unders, so one more over than under, and favorites have had a rough go of it. 44 and 44 on the money line. Meanwhile, overall for the season, favorites are in at 57.4%, 873 and 648 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under rate overall for the season, 52.4%, 773 unders to 702 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Wednesday. Now let's take a look at what we might be getting at the trade deadline, and our good friend Adam Rosenberg is playing the prop market. We'll be talking about that next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Everybody, good lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Adam Rosenberg aboard. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Apparently, he's got a lot of Justin Fields futures as well for those of you that are football fans. I saw that on the old Twitter/X where he's at Hey Rosenberg, a great name, and he also does a great job with the Dad's Bet Baseball Podcast as well. And Adam, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love coming in. I like that it's becoming a weekly thing. One of the best parts of my week.
Absolutely, and it's one of my favorite parts as well because you do such a great job on the player prop front, and I think that this week is going to be so interesting because trade deadline is less than 7 days away as this is coming out, and we've got ourselves a lot of intrigue in general that's going to be happening. And do you find yourself playing these props a little bit differently, or perhaps waiting a little bit longer to play some of these props when it comes to this time of year, because we know that guys can get moved at any second now?
The only place I'm using any caution is on certain pitchers that I think are maybe part of moves. So Merrill Kelly's next start, I'm probably going to be a little bit cautious on how long he goes. I think Zach Gallen will have one more start, I believe, as well. I was pretty cautious on Mitch Keller. I think he might get moved. And then so I took his under outs. It's not sort of a blind backing, and there isn't really as much of a science to it, but some of these guys over the next week, they're going to want to look more attractive. So it's sort of one of those, when in doubt, bet the over Ks under outs. It's sort of these teams want to show off the horse, show you that the horse is great, and then make sure that you can get the horse back in the stable safely so you can trade him.
Yep, I think that is such good advice, and it is going to be really interesting to see what happens with one of those guys you mentioned in Zach Gallen and the Arizona Diamondbacks, because, well, Gallen has looked awful this year. I think that's very fair to say, but how do you take a look at this Diamondbacks team, one that entering into Tuesday, they were below 500, but let's say that they have a big rest of the week into early next week, they could be a team that doesn't sell, but if things go tragically wrong here in the next few days, you have to think that they are going to be sellers.
I think that they are going to be sellers because what I've unfortunately started to realize, I loved this D-backs team last year. I think I kind of liked them after they beat the Phillies 2 years ago. And this year I was really high on them. And I'm starting to see that I think this kind of got lucky a couple of years ago. Ketel's feels like he's never in the lineup for a variety of reasons. I believe he hasn't had more than 140 games. He's only done it once in the last 5 years. I think this team is finally selling. They have a ton of guys that are just pure rentals. Everyone's kind of going off the books. I think that's the bigger picture that I've seen with this team, is just that I think that I thought that they were good, and they were one of those teams that they aren't. I think that they just got really lucky over the last few years. I think that they probably need to reload in a lot of areas. I don't expect Gino Suarez to be on this team, but I got to be honest, I don't think Gino Suarez really moves the needle a lot for me. And Zach Gallen, the issues I have with Zach Gallen is that Zach Gallen was always projected to be a starting pitcher 3 or a 2. And Arizona, they've always treated him like an ace. He's not an ace. He doesn't have ace stuff. He doesn't have ace velo. He just has a pretty deep repertoire and a cutter. I'm not sure how this team is really constructed, but I'm hoping that they can make some moves, get some guys back and give some guys playing time. Like Jordan Lawler not being able to get playing time is kind of absurd on this team.
Yep, it has been very interesting to take a look at what we've seen with the Arizona Diamondbacks, where the offense has been rock solid, but as we know, the pitching has not been, and if you've been trusting in that Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, that's not a place where you want to be trusting. Yes, joining me on the show, we do have Adam Rosenberg. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And just what are a few other teams of intrigue that you have your eye on the next week or so? Because I feel like there's a lot of teams hovering right around 500, maybe a game or two above, where these next few days, it's going to be so hit or miss for them, because a team like the Cincinnati Reds, a team like the St. Louis Cardinals, what do they do at the deadline, along with that cavalcade of American League teams that are all seemingly alive for the wild card spots?
The Cardinals are one of those teams where if they're alive, then they're alive, but they're definitely not buying. This team has a little bit of it's much more of a long-term vision. They've been shopping Arenado since feels like forever. Finally giving Liberatore a shot this year. They've always had a really good farm system. I don't expect them to be buyers. I think that they'd be pretty happy if they end up finishing 500. This isn't sort of a make the playoffs type of thing. The Rangers are probably the most interesting team to me, because that's a team that I think all of us were really high on going into the season. They have some guys in their lineup I've never heard of. I don't know who this Hellman guy is. All sorts of folks across the board. Horrible injury luck. I had to send Jake Berger down and back. Forgot that guy even had options. But, their pitching's been fantastic. DeGrom's having a Cy Young-esque year, if not for a Skubal. They've been great there. Kumar Rocker's kind of figured it out. Jack Leiter's figured it out, but they're not able to hit. So I'm wondering if maybe they still kind of put some chips in, maybe try to get Josh Naylor, try to get, another one of those bats. This Rangers team is sort of missing that lefty pop that they would have gotten from Seager, but Seager hasn't really given it to them this year. So that's the team that I'm really looking at, that I think is going to sneaky buy, because I don't think that they're going to sell, and they're sort of in no man's land in that division where a short run they could take over, because I don't think the AL West is that strong.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to be able to overtake the Astros, just because the Astros have such a big lead that it's becoming a bit insurmountable, but certainly for that wild card spot. And how encouraging is it that the Rangers, I know you talked about how bad the hitting is, and it's been awful overall for the season, but they are actually averaging like 5.5 runs per game here in the month of July. And if I'm the Astros, if I'm the Rangers, I'm feeling good about things.
If I'm the Rangers, I'm kind of letting these teams kind of fall into place around me. Look, the AL East can beat each other up, and then they can kind of sneak over into that wild card, because that's what it's going to be. It's basically the AL East versus Seattle and the Rangers for that wild card spot. Hitting is cyclical, and hitting can generally be fixed. Pitching can't. And they haven't had a problem with pitching. So if I were them, I'd feel pretty lucky right now.
Yep, it certainly is a case where the American League wildcard is going to be so interesting, as our good friend and Adam Rosenberg is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And is there a team out there in the American League that you feel a little bit bullish on them and you feel like they could be able to bust out? Because I just look at the entire American League. The Tigers are not necessarily a team that's a juggernaut. The Yankees certainly have their issues. When it comes to what we've seen out of the Astros, they're not a team that I think is the Astros of old. I think that it's a very winnable league in general, and if a team could just sneak into the wild card, if they could just sneak into the playoffs, they have a chance, in my opinion, to be able to make some noise.
The AL has, since they've added the other wild card positions, AL has traditionally been pretty chalky still. I'm still high on this Tigers team. I know they're in a little bit of a rut right now. Also, by the way, it seems like Pittsburgh's been really good at home lately. It just feels like everybody's kind of doing road trips there, and then they're getting either swept or losing 2 of 3.
Except for the White Sox.
Except for the White Sox, yeah. Even though, the White Sox did. This Tigers team, though, I still think is better. I think it's the Tigers, the Yankees, and everybody else. I do think that this Yankees team has the power to buy. And look, a worse Yankees team won the AL pennant last year, in my opinion. They got a third of a season of Garrett Cole. A couple of years ago, Aaron Judge dragged a team that had Harrison Bader on it to 82 wins. So I still think this Tigers team is going to make some moves. They really could use a third baseman. They really could use a closer, a shutdown closer. But the way that Hinch uses that entire pitching staff has just been, with the exception of Jack Flaherty, has been fantastic. I think Jack Flaherty is one of those situations where they would really love to have like somebody else who's not him. And it's pretty clear that he's limited in some capacity injury-wise. That's why it took so long for him to sign. But I think the Tigers are going to make a move for a closer, shore up the end of their bullpen. They have the best pitcher on the planet on their roster, and that team generally has been good. They're going to be able to clinch their division way in advance, and they got the best record in baseball, and who would have thought it?
Yep, and that was quite a stray at Harrison Bader, by the way, man. Yeah. That guy took it right there, but absolutely, I think that is going to be such a fascinating team to watch in general. And then just going on over to the National League side of things, I can't believe I'm saying this, but entering into Tuesday, the team, I believe, with the best record in the National League is the Milwaukee Brewers.
It is.
I need to get your thoughts here, because I'm a Brewers fan. I was born and raised in the great state of Wisconsin. What do we make on this team right now, where they're not hitting a lot of home runs, but the pitching has reinforcements with Jake Mizrowski coming up to the big league level. Brandon Woodruff has looked rock solid, and for some reason they're doing all their damage with regards to scoring on the road.
I think there's a lot of folks that I have a lot of friends from Milwaukee, a lot of friends from Wisconsin. I'm a little bit of a Brewers hater on some things. I think it's with Miz is that I just don't like the comps to Skeens. I just think they're completely different pitchers. The problem that I have with this Brewers team is just that they still look like a ceiling of a wild card team. I believe, what was it? Last year they used 24 different pitchers, and they're knocking on that record this year with the number of guys that they have. They've turned around Quinn Priester, but is it Miz? You're gonna go into a playoff rotation of Chad Patrick, Quinn Priester, and Mizrowski? I mean, that's risky. There's nobody who's also sort of on this team like jumping out and just really doing things. Churio arguably is having a down year. Contreras is definitely not having the year that he had last year. They're getting incredible production out of the bottom of their order, more so than any other team that I've seen. So they've been hot. You're actually seeing that in the odds for them to win the division. There's actually a bet that I really like with them, and it's them to have the 5 seed, because if you look at their schedule, they play the Cubs in August, and they have a 5 games in 4 days because they have a doubleheader with them. They don't play the Cubs again the rest of the season. They actually don't play any teams who are ahead of them in standings, be it wild card or central, the rest of the season. And they play the Padres in September. They play the Phils. It's a pretty brutal stretch for them then, and they can't make up ground. So if they lose that series to the Cubs are really going to be in the driver's seat for the division, because you can make up wins, but you can't make up losses. Barring some sort of collapse from the Cubs, August is going to be it for whether or not they win the division.
Yep, it is going to be interesting to see what the Brewers are going to be able to do moving forward. And I mean, just in the National League, how do you take a look at that hierarchy? Because a lot of people are still clinging on to the fact that the Dodgers are the best team. And when fully healthy, I do believe that the Dodgers are the best team. But I mean, with Blake Snell on the injured list, that entire bullpen on the injured list, Roki Sasaki was not what they were hoping for, and he's on the injured list. I just look at the Dodgers, and I don't know if they're going to have enough pitching to be able to get the job done. Now, we said that about that last year as well, but I think that they're an interesting team, and I just still look at the Chicago Cubs as perhaps being that team that might be able to go over the top and might be the team that represents the National League in the World Series.
Yeah, that Cubs team looks very all in. I've said this all week. I think that Pete Crow Armstrong is the MVP of the league. If you look, he just seems to show up in the box score every single night. I know we all love Ohtani, but every night I look at the box score and I see that PCA has done something on a team that's hot. For this Cubs team, make a move for Gino Suarez. They could really shore up their third base side. I don't think that they've clearly not been happy with Matt Shaw. Just he's kind of been streaky at times. I think Gino is actually really a glorified platoon player, and he was at the end of his tenure in Seattle, but neither here nor there. The Dodgers, though, you got to remember, the Dodgers are going to get back arguably 4 of the top 20 starting pitchers like that are playing in major leagues with very low innings on their roster for the season. So Snell with very low innings and 90 days to go, I'll take it because he's going to be able to do a lot of stuff with that. I think Sasaki is an interesting case because if you remember last year, Yamamoto had similar issues, had like a phantom IL stint where they kind of reconstructed his fastball and everything like that. He came back and he was very solid for their playoff run. I feel like the problem with Sasaki is that he's not built for high leverage situations the same way Yamamoto is. I do expect him to come back, and I do expect him to be considerably better than he was for the first quarter of the season that he was part of. But you can't have him come out of the bullpen because you can't have him in a high leverage situation. You know, you need him to kind of eat some innings and do some stuff there. So I think he'd do best if they do a lot of openers with him, and that's probably how I expect him to be used as they get there. But Dodgers, I think, will be fine, but also remember that they are the oldest team in the league, so injuries take a lot longer to recover on teams like that.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that when it's all said and done for the LA Dodgers, they are going to be able to show their might. And I think it's they and the Cubs. They're very much the 1-2 with regards to the National League, but we shall see what is going to be happening on that front. And is there anything else that you're just taking a look at in terms of the futures market or just props in general that are standing out here in the second half of the season that you're betting on a day-to-day basis?
I mentioned this on the last time that I was on, but I've been really, really hitting the walks market. Chase Burns just cashed over 1.5. The walks market's great. For pitchers, walks allowed. It's another version of the wonder of the K-prop. I use Handigraphs a lot because one of the things on my site, handigraphs.com, is that you can see last 30 plate appearances, last 60 plate appearances against a pitcher's specific handedness. And when you do that, you're able to get a real good sense of, oh, wow, are these guys, what's the form that they're in currently? Is there a lot of targets in the lineup that could walk? Because 30 plate appearances is, 2 to 3 games, and that's actually a pretty good idea of what someone's doing recently. I've been betting a lot of the walks over. Had a good time with Hayden Birdsong. He cashed that pretty easily in the first inning. He didn't even get an out. Slowly dipping my toes back into the batter props. Hit a Manzardo prop. The weather being better has made that a lot more amenable to my betting strategy. But I, of course, always go back to the double play. As you know, man, I'm loving the DPs this summer. So DPs, walks allowed, starting to get back into those batter props right now.
I absolutely love it. And Adam, you're doing such a great job of looking at so many ways to be able to profit on this great game of baseball. You're really mixing it up. I know that you have turned me and so many people onto double play props, which that's something I did not expect coming into the season. So credit to you on that. I know you're contributing at so many different places. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
I'm at Hey Rosenberg on everything. Catch me on the MLB Gambling Podcast 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This week we're doing them at 11 a.m. Eastern time, but usually it's at 10 a.m. And Dad's Bet Baseball on Mondays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. And of course, as I mentioned, my baseball analytics site, Handigraphs, that's handigraphs.com. Use the code HGDADS when you get there. But Greg, I just always love talking baseball with you. And we got half a season left, so I don't want to think about it being over. Summer's halfway over, but we got plenty of baseball left.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what we get the rest of the season. And I know that Adam is doing an amazing job of being able to gauge this great game of baseball. So big thanks, Adam, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis for, unfortunately, all 5 games on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Adam Rosenberg. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, he lends amazing insights. He did so once again today, so a big thanks to Adam for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The San Diego Padres are on the road. They're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. As it is Mr. Sonny Gray who's going to be on the bum for the Cards, and Yu Darvish is on the bum for the Pods. And the Padres do find themselves between plus 112 to plus 118, minus 130 to minus 137 is that number on St. Louis with a total of 8. Over is minus 125 and the under is plus 105. I have to think that this probably gets to 8.5 at some point, and even at an 8.5, I would be looking at the over. I set my total at an 8.6. Now with Sonny Gray, you've got very dramatic home and road splits with Sonny Gray. Ever since he has joined the St. Louis Cardinals, his ERA, if you look at the last 2 years, has been nearly 2 points lower when he has been at home rather than on the road. If you just take a look at the 2025 campaign, he's posting up a 284 home ERA, 584 ERA on the road. On the road, he is giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. At home, closer about 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. So he has been very much a night-and-day pitcher. Now for the St. Louis Cardinals, they're going to have to acclimate from having to play at elevation, which that's always a little bit difficult, but not like the Cardinals were doing much at Coors anyway. But that said, you've got plenty of guys who are able to find a way on base and move line. Your top 3 guys, Alec Burleson, Brandon Donovan, Ivan Herrera, these guys are all hitting at least a 285. Herrera has been one of your best power hitters, as the St. Louis Cardinals have just been very much a powerless team. They don't have a single guy on the roster with more than 13 home runs this season, with Wilson Contreras is about 340 on base, 13 home runs, leading the way. Lars Nootbaar is on the injured list. He's provided 12 bombs, and Nolan Arenado has just not been too effective this year, but we have Mason Wynn having a 325 on base, and it has been a Cardinals bullpen that has been overall about league average this season. Ryan Elsley has blown a few saves, but those all came earlier in the season. He's been much better now, as he, Jojo Romero, Phil Matone, Matt Savanson, these guys are giving you a sub 325 ERA, and I just have my question marks right now with this Padres offense, as for Yu Darvish, he has come off the injured list and just hasn't been able to lend a lot of length. The swing and miss stuff just has not returned from quite yet, as well. He is at an advanced age. He's made 3 starts, 13 and a third innings, and he's only gotten 7 strikeouts, so that's a bit of an issue. Good news is he has yet to allow home runs, so he's been able to keep the ball in the yard, albeit a small sample size once again, and it just has not really looked too sharp as of yet, as he did give up 3 runs at his last start against Washington Nationals on the road. He has not been able to fill a full 5 innings quite yet. Now the good news is he is backed up by a Padres bullpen that does rank at the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Lots of guys like Jeremiah Estrada, along with David Morgan, Jason Adam, Andre Motorhone. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Robert Suarez has blown a few saves here in the last few weeks, but it does appear as though he's rounding back into form. But again, with the San Diego Padres team, they have been on the road one of the worst offenses in all of baseball. For the San Diego Padres, right now they are checking in a bottom 10 team with regards to runs per game away from home, as they've had a trio of guys, Gavin Sheets, Manny Machado, along Fernando Tatis Jr., all be able to supply at least 14 home runs thus far this season, but 26th in terms of runs per game away from home because the catcher spot has not been able to get online. They were relying upon having Jason Hayward be able to provide for this team. They had to DFA him because that did not work out, so they have been in a world of hurt with that regard. You still do have someone like Jake Cronenworth give you about a 345 or so with regards to that on-base percentage, but he's not necessarily hitting for a lot of power. Luis Rise, 285 batting average for most guys is pretty solid, but for him, it's a little bit of a down year. Though Xander Bogaerts, up to about a 345 on base. We'll give him a little bit of credit there. That said, I do think that for Sonny Gray, he's just been a little bit wobbly recently, and I do think that Yu Darvish has a rough start here, so I did set the Cardinals at a minus 133. I'm willing to trust in them up to a minus 132 on the money line, and I'm in on the over, 953, 954 on the card. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be on the road against the Cleveland Guardians, as it is Mr. Logan Allen who's going to be on the bump for the Cleveland Guardians, and you've got Charlie Morton going for the Baltimore Orioles. Orioles are between even money to plus 103, and between minus 112 to a minus 120. That number on Cleveland. 9 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110. Did set my total at 8.7. I'm going to be in on the under. For the Orioles, 27th in the league in terms of runs per game away from home. This despite the fact that Jordan Westburg has come off the injury list, and he's been solid, providing the team a home run every about 19 or so at bats, hitting above 255. And it's just so interesting with this Baltimore Orioles team because you don't have that one guy that's really lighting it up and is giving you a bunch of bombs, but they've got 6 different guys who have been able to supply at least 10 home runs as far this season, as Ramon Laureano, Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins, Ryan O'Hearn, and Westburg, who I mentioned before, all in that fold. You've had Henderson be able to hit for nearly a 280 along with O'Hearn. O'Hearn much better with his on-base percentage at a 375, and Ramon Laureano has been able to hit about a 280 this far this season, so that's been solid, but I mean, it's just been very inconsistent at the catcher spot as you've had Adley Rutschman deal with an injury, so they've had to rely upon guys like Gary Sanchez and company, and for the Orioles, the pitching has just not been great, especially Charlie Morton when he's been on the road. Morton has actually rounded into form a little bit, as for Charlie Morton when he has been at home, he's been supplying a sub 4.50 ERA, and you take a look at Charlie Morton over his last 8 starts, he has given up 300 runs or fewer in all but 2 of them, but when Charlie Morton has been on the road, this balloons up to about a 6.81 ERA. He on the road is giving up nearly 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and for Logan Allen, 3 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 7 starts, 4.07 ERA, the 3.8 walks per 9 innings, a little bit less than savory, and what else is less than savory is the fact that you've got a Cleveland Guardians lineup that is just very top-heavy, as Jose Ramirez has been amazing for the team, 21 home runs, hitting at 295 with a 370 on base, and then Steven Kwan has been hitting in that neighborhood about a 285 himself. Even Carlos Santana is able to give you a 325 on base, but you just need more out of these ancillary pieces, as you've got just a mismatch of different guys hitting at 220 or lower. Brian Rocchio, Kyle Manzardo, Daniel Schneemann, Bo Naylor, Will Wilson, John Kenzie, Noel, David Fry, and I recognize that Kyle Manzardo has been able to supply 16 home runs this season, but I mean, man, you just need a little bit more average there. And then with this Guardians bullpen, they have been in the top 10 in terms of ERA since the beginning of the month of June. Emmanuel Clase has gotten his act together. He was awful to begin the season, but I mean, ever since May 1st, he's posting up a sub 250 ERA down to a 280 overall for the season, and Eric Zabrowski has come off the injury list, supplying sub 2 ERA. Cade Smith has been pretty solid in this bullpen, and Jacob Junis is starting to find it as a long guy. Hunter Gaddis has been a bit of an issue, though. Paul Sewald, I never liked that signing to start with. He and Matthew Fessa are both supplying a above 450 ERA, and for Baltimore, this continues to be a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERAs. You've got Felix Bautista, once again doing a very rock-solid job for the team, but I mean, those former Phillies and Gregory Soto alongside Anthony Dominguez, just so inconsistent, both above a 360 with regards to ERA. You got rid of Brian Baker at the right time, as he has not been good since they moved him to the Tampa Bay Rays, but and with the guys like Scott Blewett, they've been relying upon Grant Wolfram, guys like this. They just have not gone out there and gotten the job done. These are 2 offenses that are relatively, shall we say, rough. So I did set my total at an 8.7. I like the under, but I do like the Guardians up to a minus 125 on that money line. 955, 956 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road against the Detroit Tigers, as Reese Olson is on the bump for Detroit, and Eric Lauer goes for Toronto. 8.5 is the total. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. Detroit is between minus 128 to minus 137 favorite. Between plus 115 to plus 120 is that number on Toronto. I made my money line price of minus 142, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with Detroit. I've just been impressed by Reese Olson, the way that he's able to mitigate hard contact. For Reese Olson, a 271 ERA. He has spent some time on the injured list, but he has only allowed 3 home runs in his 63 innings, so less than a half home run per 9 innings. Does give up 3.3 walks per 9 innings, but solid swing and miss stuff. About 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Really like the way that he's been able to go out there since going off the injured list. 3 earned runs allowed in his last 3 starts as well, so he has looked very good on that front. And for Eric Lauer, he's having himself a nice renaissance here. I remember a few years ago when he was with the Milwaukee Brewers, had a really nice year there as well. 280 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts, 2.4 walks, and 1 home run allowed per 9 innings, so very, very solid numbers. And for Lauer, he has given up 200 runs or fewer, 4 of his last 5 starts, 3 or fewer in each out of those last 5, backed up by a bullpen that has been pretty solid for the Toronto Blue Jays. You don't necessarily have guys that are lighting the world on fire, but Brandon Fisher, Brandon Little, these 2 guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, along with Uriel Rodriguez, who's been a nice long guy. Blue Jays overall, 6th in the big leagues with a 3.52 ERA. This despite the fact that Jeff Hoffman has been a relative disaster for this team. That has not been great, to say the least. But all in all, these guys have been able to do a really nice job going out there and just being able to do their job. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, the trepidation that you do have with this team, they have been hitting much differently when they've been on the road rather than at home. 5.3 runs per game at home, 3.85 runs per game on the road, as they just have been a little bit of a powerless team when they've been away from home. George Springer has been able to supply the boom for this team. He's above a 360 with his on-base percentage, 16 plus home runs. Flagger Jr. a little bit down with regards to power numbers at 13 home runs, but a 390 on base. And then you've got Bo Bichette, Addison Barger, combined 26 home runs. Both of these guys hitting at least a 274. You've had Alejandro Kirk, don't call his name, at above a 300 with a 360 on base as well. So and the team has done a nice job of mixing and matching there. And for the Tigers, coming out of the All-Star break the last week, the team has been averaging less than 3 runs per contest, but I think that they're going to be able to find it here. So Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, doing a nice job in the deep ball. Torkelson, 340 on base, 21 home runs. Riley Green, 25 bombs. He's been able to about a 275. And then just a lot of guys moving the line in general. Javi Baez, Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, owing at least a 270. Dylan Dingler has found a way to be able to hit about a 260. Cole Keith is up to a 340 on base. Vencio Perez has been pretty solid since coming off the injured list. Now for the Tigers, since June 1st, this has been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA, with Tommy Kahnle seeing that ERA hike it up to right around about a 470. So that's been less than amazing. Tyler Holton has had his issues, but then you do have Brendan Anafee, Chase Lee, Will Vest providing a sub 335 ERA. So I do think that Olsen does a nice job going out there, getting the job done. I did set my total at 8.3. Here at the 8.5, I do think that the Blue Jays have a little bit of a tough time hitting on the road. I like the under and the Tigers on the money line. 957, 958 on the betting board. It is the Athletics on the road against the Houston Astros, as Jason Alexander, no, not the guy from Seinfeld, is on the bump for Houston, and Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics. Total on this game is 8. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. For the Astros, it is between minus 124 to minus 130 on their money line, and between plus 110 to a plus 115. That number on the Athletics. And I set the Astros at a minus 148 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. Now, if you look at the overall season numbers for Severino, not great. 5.10 ERA, 439 fielding dependencies. He's only giving up 1 home run and 3 walks per 9 innings, and that's the case for him, just like so many of these other guys on this A's ball team that, they just can't pitch in Sacramento. For Severino, a 3.10 road ERA. Now, it's been much worse over the last few starts, but still, you can see the difference here. 3.10 road ERA, 6.68 ERA at home and on the road for Severino, giving up between about 0.8 to 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. Now, he's backed up by a bullpen that has been just absolutely miserable thus far this season for the Athletics. Right now, a 5.50 bullpen ERA. You've had Michael Kelly, along with Sean Newcomb, be able to supply a sub 3.50 ERA. These guys have been solid, and Jack Perkins in a long role has not been too bad himself, but man, you just still have a lot of guys that are going out there and not getting the job done, I think, is the best way of being able to put it, as just a cavalcade of different guys. They're posting up an ERA that is north of a 4. Even Mason Miller is there, Elvis Alvarado, Tyler Ferguson, Justin Sterner. You just go down the list. It's been relatively rough for them. And for the Athletics, it's a relatively okay lineup. They're about league average with regards to run creation. Tyler Soderstrom, 330 on base with 18 home runs. Brent Rooker, 350 on base with 21 bombs of his own. Shea Langoliers doesn't necessarily hit for a lot of average, but Shea is banging for 14 home runs as far as the season, so you absolutely love to see that. And then you still have Jacob Olsen, who's been sort of having a little bit of a dip with regards to his batting average, but he's still moving the line. He's still hitting above a 315, and even someone like a Luis Urias has been able to give you some nice at-bats. And for Alexander, he's been really just a little bit of a journeyman pitcher. He's made a start or two for the Houston Astros already this season. As a matter of fact, he's made appearances against this very Athletics team, and for Alexander, give him a little bit of credit where it is due. When he went up against the Astros a little bit earlier on during the season, he went out there, he pitched 6 innings, he gave up 3 runs to which were out there in Sacramento. Not too bad of a showing there, and in his 2 appearances with the Astros, he has given up 2 runs total with regards to earned runs, 3 runs in total over the course of 9 innings. Now, when he's with the Athletics, who, it's very ironic that he's facing his former team here, he gave up 13 runs, 12 of which were earned in 6 innings. So, believe what you want to believe here. He has never been too much of a strikeout guy. When he was getting starts for the Brewers in the 2022 season, he was posting up in that neighborhood about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That season, he had a 5.40 ERA, and for Alexander, he's mostly been at the minor league level, and when he's been at the minor league level for the Sugar Land Space Cowboys, he's actually supplied a sub sub-2 ERA in his 8 total appearances, so a little bit of credit where it is due there, but has never really translated to big league success. His Astros bullpen has been great. Number 1 in the American League in terms of ERA entering in the day on Wednesday with a 3.26 ERA. The Bryants, Brian King, Brian DeBreu, Stephen Okert, Josh Hader, the closer, all these guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, so they do a nice job mixing and matching there. You've got Jeremy Pena currently on the injured list, but still a team that's doing a nice job of fighting way on base. They don't draw a lot of walks, but they also don't strike out a ton either. You need a little bit more of Yenier Diaz, Christian Walker. Both of these guys have 13 home runs, but both below 300 with regards to on base. You've got Jose Altuve, though, now hitting at 280 with 17 home runs. Isaac Paredes, 19 home runs, 360 on base. Cam Smith, he's regressed a little bit over the last week or so, but he's giving you now a 333 on base. So you've got a lot of guys that are going out there doing a pretty rock solid job for this team, and I do think that moving forward, you're going to be able to continue to get that good production on offense. And for the Athletics, I do think that they're going to be facing a little bit of an uphill battle. So I'm willing to go up to a minus 147 with this Astros money line. So want to lay that in here at the 8. I'm going to be in on the over, and we wrap things up with 959, 960 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road facing off against the LA Angels. You say Kikuchi, I say starting for the Angels, and Logan Evans goes for Seattle. 9 is a total. Over and under, both at minus 110. Seattle finds themselves as a slight underdog between even money to plus 106. Meanwhile, between minus 110 to minus 125, that number on the Halos. And I did set my money line price at a minus 103 on Seattle. I'm going to be willing to back them for Logan Evans. He hasn't necessarily lit the world on fire, but at the same time, he also has not lit his team on fire. For Logan Evans, 381 ERA, a fielding pennant that is about a 488. He is giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and that is an issue going up against an Angels team that does rank in the top 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. That said, when it comes to this Angels team, they're also a team that ranks in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage at home, so this has been very much an all-or-nothing team. You've got Taylor Ward, who's done a nice job supplying 23 home runs. He's up to a 309 on base, so we'll give him a little bit of credit. Nolan Schunal, Zach Neto, these guys have been able to find a way on, along with Mike Trout. With Schunal and Trout both above a 355 on base, you've been able to get good power out of Trout. He's back up to 18 home runs, so I need Mike Trout that we all know and love. Logan Hoppy, he's also been able to give you 18 home runs, but 280 on base, that's an issue. Ori Soler, heating up a little bit, but less than a 300 on base, 12 home runs. You just expect a little bit more out of guys like that. And then Luis Renifo, he's got a 282 on base with 4 home runs. That's not tremendous. And what else is not tremendous? This Angels bullpen. Bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Hunter Strickland was pretty much the best reliever for this team, and he landed on the injured list. Now, Brock Burke, Kenley Jansen are both now below a sub 365 ERA, but everyone else has pretty much an ERA above a 4. Connor Brogdon, Reed Detmer, Sam Bachman, you've got a lot of guys that are just simply not getting the job done. Ryan Zefrian has been a disaster, and for the Seattle Mariners, it's a solid bullpen. I'm not going to call it amazing because the long guys like Trent Thornton and company have not been great, but the top guys have been absolutely amazing. Like Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, throw in there a man that started out the year on the injured list, and Matt Brash. All these guys have been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. Edward Bazardo has actually been really good out of the bullpen as well. Carlos Vargas is starting to regress a little bit, but for Seattle, this team is also averaging 5.4 runs per game away from home. That leads the American League. Big dumper Cal Raleigh, 39 home runs this far this season. I don't think they quite get the American League record, but man, he's been incredible as he, along with J.P. Crawford, at least a 365 on base apiece out of both of these guys. Julio Rodriguez and Ori Polanco both hitting in that neighborhood about a 250, 14 to 15 home runs apiece. And Randy Arozarena, talk about a guy who has been able to get hot, 356 on base. He's up to 18 home runs this season, but you take a look at what he's done in the month of July, entering into the day on Wednesday. This guy has been absolutely white hot. 8 home runs in his first 17 games with hitting at 275, so that's been great. Ben Williamson doesn't necessarily give you any sort of power, but he's able to like a 255. Dom Canzone has been able to give you some good at-bats as well, so it's an interesting spot with a guy in Yusei Kikuchi who's been really good at home, a sub 2 ERA, but he has that 311 ERA compared to a 380 fielding dependent, 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings. That's not bad, but he is also giving up a little bit north of 4 walks per 9 innings, and that is the big concern that I do have with them. I do think that Seattle stings them a little bit, and then they get into that bullpen to be able to get the job done. I did set my total at 8.7, so I'm going to be backing Seattle on the money line, and I'm going to be taking a shot on the under as well, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks thanks to Adam Rosenberg, does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm going to be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.